Jury selection is underway in the trial of the former Minneapolis police officer charged in George Floyd's death. Derek Chauvin faces charges of second-degree murder and manslaughter in the May 2020 death of George Floyd. The process began Tuesday and is now expected to last about 3 weeks. It started a day later than originally scheduled, due in part to a request by prosecutors to reinstate a third-degree murder charge. Jamie Yukas has the latest from Minneapolis.
Have been summoned as potential jurors.
Jury selection started a day late, so lawyers wasted little time.
I want to make sure that what you would apply would be the Minneapolis Police Department's standards versus your personal experience being trained in jiu-jitsu. You would do that?
I would do that.
The dismissal of minority potential jurors drew an objection from the prosecution.
The defense has made its preparatory challenge now, and it's the second person of color in the jury pool.
The streets were calmer after hundreds marched around the courthouse Monday. But in a city that has seen violence surge since George Floyd's death, including a 14-year-old who was killed last night, many young people feel trapped between the violence and the police that patrol the community.
I feel like I'm hunted.
17-year-old Marcus Hunter lives with that threat every day.
When you go to bed, what do you hear in the neighborhood?
Constant gunfire.
Have you felt targeted by police in the past?
Yes.
In what way?
Every encounter that I've had with the police has been unpleasant.
He's written 2 editorials for the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, trying to explain how he sees what's happening and what's at stake in the trial downtown.
I compare a lot of myself to George Floyd and Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin and those who have died to police brutality. And to me, it means change.
There were 3 jurors selected today. One was a woman related to a northern Minnesota police officer. Jury selection will continue tomorrow, despite prosecutors' objections saying the judge doesn't have jurisdiction over the case while they await a ruling on a lesser murder charge. Elaine?
Jamie Yukas, thank you. For more, I want to bring in Shareeduh Tate. She is George Floyd's cousin. Shareeduh, thank you very much for joining us during this difficult time.
Thank you for having me.
So you were the only family member of George Floyd who was present in the courtroom Tuesday. First of all, how are you doing, and what are your thoughts on the proceedings?
Thank you so much for asking. I'm doing as well as you can expect. I mean, it's a bittersweet process that we're having to go through, but we're grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it from the very beginning.
And as you were watching today, you know, what was going through your mind and in your heart as you sat there in the courtroom?
I think the thing that was foremost in my mind was that we were in part of a process that was going to, you know, get us to the place what we've all been seeking, that's justice. So I just felt that the time and attention that was taken to make sure, you know, each person was asked the right questions so that we end up with the right jury pool in the end.
And specifically on that, Shareeduh, what are your thoughts on the kinds of questions the potential jurors faced in the courtroom?
I'm not sure I know what you're asking me. Do you can you clarify what you're asking?
Well, just sort of the idea of, obviously, there has been so much publicity surrounding this case, and we're going to get to sort of the impact of your cousin, not just in the United States, but really worldwide. And so as you were, you know, sitting there listening, obviously you want to find fair and impartial, just as the prosecutors and everyone there wants to find folks who are going to look at this in a way that will bring about true justice. So with all of that, how did you feel about the kinds of questions that were being asked to try to achieve the most fair and impartial set of jurors available to carry on with this trial?
I felt like, you know, the questions were necessary. I mean, obviously, you know, this case is one that you'll be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't, you know, seen or heard or has some knowledge about it. And so in an effort to make sure that, you have a fair and impartial jury, I think sometimes it requires them to ask difficult questions. So, I didn't have any misgivings about the questions they were asking. I felt that, they needed to do that in order to make sure we get the right people seated.
So, as I mentioned, your cousin's death prompted these weeks of demonstrations across the U.S. and really a larger movement against racial injustice and police brutality. We've seen worldwide reaction to what happened to your cousin. We also saw that Congress recently passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And I wonder, given all of this, what do you believe is your cousin's legacy?
That's a question that we're asked quite often. And, his legacy would probably be, probably any number of things that we can speak to. But I think, one of the most important things is that we've seen in our country really this level of injustice as it relates to, Black men, and police. So I think that for us, it's brought us some level of comfort to know that his death has sparked a movement that's going to we believe, will in the end make it better for generations to come.
Shareeduh Tate, Shareeduh, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us during this really difficult time.
Thank you so much for having me.